going on, everybody? Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Kieran. I help people using a spiritual perspective. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I've already said that already, but welcome again. And we are going to be doing a video about feminine and masculine energy. So these are kind of buzzwords that are very popular nowadays, feminine, masculine. It can be kind of hard to determine what that really means, right? So the topic of this video is about how to balance out the feminine and masculine within you. But what exactly does that mean? What does feminine and masculine mean, right? The idea, of course, is that we all have a feminine and a masculine energy within us. And that others, and some people, are more predominantly feminine and some are other, predominantly masculine. But again, what exactly does that mean? Is that some sort of butch lesbian who is masculine, too much masculine energy? Is it the woman that is so career focused on the lawyer, the doctor? Does it matter what the career is? Is it a man? Is an overly masculine man somebody who is in the military or in the army? Is it somebody who's also very focused on their career? Is it a construction worker, somebody who works with physicality in some way? Is it a fireman? Right? Is a feminine man, is somebody with more feminine energy as a man? Is that somebody who's gay? Is that somebody who is in the creative fields? Is that somebody who just happens to be sensitive, who pursues the arts, who does things that are creative? What does it mean? Right? Is a woman who's feminine somebody who is just completely in touch with her body? Right? Is she a midwife? What does it mean to be feminine or masculine? So the idea, of course, is that we all have these energies inside of us, that we're all aware, or that we all do have energies that we can balance, but that sometimes they get out of hand, right? So a more masculine dominant energy may forget about the feminine side of things and live their life in a particular direction that causes them to be unbalanced, and then vice versa for feminine energy. And so you've probably seen many posts or articles or whatever, videos maybe, of people saying that, feminine energy that's unbalanced, they can be very victim mentality, overly sensitive, very down on themselves, filled with self-pity, a lot of emotional sort of trauma and drama going on with sort of toxic femininity, a lot of gossip, a lot of stuff like that. And then with toxic masculinity, you have a lot of ego, there's this having to push forward, a lot of stubbornness, being overly concerned with the mental, right? Not being in touch with your intuition, and being headstrong and maybe quick to anger, and being very prone to outbursts or violent even, right? So you have these different sort of, I guess you would say, the swinging of the pendulum. They can go in these very opposite polar directions. And yet, all of that kind of is just a buzzword. So I'm going to sort of narrow it down to what I would say is feminine and masculine, okay? And that is that feminine is the ability to receive something, and masculine is the ability to give it, okay? So it's almost the same as saying one is to take and one is to give, okay? Another way of saying. So masculine energy is more concerned with taking, and feminine energy is more concerned with giving. Or masculine energy is more concerned with the ability to do, and feminine energy is more concerned with the ability to receive, right? So you can think of a mother as that sort of feminine energy, right? It's giving life. It's birthing something, right? It's also, in the sense of having sex, it's receiving something, right? Whereas then men are just sort of giving their sperm away, willy-nilly, as the expression goes. I can't believe I just said willy-nilly, but I did just say that. And so that idea that feminine and masculine energy is that polar opposite also makes it seem on the surface that we cannot have both of those sort of energies within us. And you may notice similarities to this idea on the twin flame journey. If you have watched videos like that, or you're familiar with the concept, the idea is that there's a divine masculine and a divine feminine. But when you really start to think about it with any semblance of critical thinking ability, that really doesn't make too much sense. I mean, what does it mean to be a divine masculine? Is that the whole idea of what we're talking about? Just the man? Is it traditionally a man? And then when you go to the divine feminine, is that traditionally a woman? No, I think when all these ludicrous concepts were being thought up, certainly the idea was divine masculine was your man and the divine feminine was your woman. But gender, sex, and all sorts of stuff these days is more fluid, more free-flowing, for better or for worse. This is not a video on gender pronouns. This is just a video on how to balance out those ideas within us. So within twin flame concepts, masculine, feminine, that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with your gender, so it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with what a man might traditionally do or what a woman might traditionally do. I am not somebody who does lots of traditional man-related careers. I don't even know what that means, you know what I mean? But I'm not like a physical kind of guy, right? I wouldn't really fight anybody. I'm not going to go do physical labor. I'm not going to go join the military. I'm not really an aggressive person. I don't really know about any of that side of masculine energy. But on the other side of things, there's a lot of things that I do that are masculine that I enjoy. I like playing sports. I like basketball. I like watching basketball. There are elements of my personality that you can consider masculine. There are things that I have done that are masculine, things that you think, men probably do. For instance, a traditional thing that men might do is the idea that they have to be the provider. Okay, that exists within my lizard brain. As well as some of the behaviors of a man, which you might think that men do, such as leaving their clothes on the floor or something like that. And I tend to try and be a little bit cleaner than that, but I can be messy as well. So then I'm also feminine in the sense that I love music, I make music, I write, I put a lot of my energy and passion towards creativity. I'm very sensitive, I'm intuitive. Obviously, I do this sort of spirituality YouTube channel. I'm interested in these topics, philosophy, esoteric sort of things. So there is a lot of feminine energy within me. Now, I've had psychics or charlatans and everywhere in between describe me as being more feminine than masculine, and maybe that's true. Maybe I am, but that doesn't translate into anything in particular. It didn't make me gay. I don't think it did. It didn't make me, into any particular version of what you might think a woman is like, because a lot of the times these days, you might, or especially in the olden days, like growing up with parents that were born before the 70s, a lot of like, this is how men should be and this is how women should be, or they'll talk to boys, or it's, don't be a woman, don't cry, don't do that. So there's a lot of toxic masculinity, toxic femininity, that all come back to these cultural ideas of what a man is, what a woman is. And this has seeped into buzzwords like femininity and masculinity, and especially with concepts like twin flame, it just sort of is this whole big canvas of just mixed, myriad together of just a bunch of random things. It's like a bunch of birds chirping at once. You can't really distinguish which one's real, what's a blue jay, what's a chickadee, what's a sparrow. It's all just at once, and it can be really hard to decipher, to make sense of. So balancing within ourselves the energy, the first thing that we need to do, I think, is get rid of the idea of labels. Get rid of what you think being a man is, what you think being a woman is. Get rid of that. I actually do think that is a slight benefit of living in the 21st century, is this idea that maybe a man and a woman isn't so particularly defined. Because now, for the first time, children and younger people are able to possibly explore who they might be beyond a label, beyond just a gender, right? I do actually think that that's a good thing for the future, because you don't want to be labeled and categorized into one box. A guy, a young boy gets called gay because they like to sing, or they might want to do dance. It doesn't really mean they're gay, and if they are gay, it doesn't matter anyway. And it's the same thing with a woman. Does it matter if a woman wants to grow up and work in IT? That she likes computers, that she's a nerd? She plays video games, it doesn't matter. It also doesn't make her a lesbian if she wants to play football, right? And if she is a lesbian, it doesn't matter anyway. So the first thing that we can do to really balance out our masculine and feminine, in my opinion, is to get rid of the labels. Because the labels seem to actually constrict. And I know that there's people out there that are really, gung-ho and horny for labels. Twin flame, soulmate, violet ray, masculine, feminine, divine, this, source, God. Okay, all of that stuff is like so sort of unfathomable, like these ideas that we're talking about, that to label them is not as simple as saying that's a cat, that's a dog, that's a penguin, that's an emu. It's not really like that, because when we're naming animals and objects and sort of proper nouns, they don't really have an opinion on what they're being named after. These are legitimate things we can see and touch and hear and smell. But when we're talking about concepts and ideas, things that are closer to philosophy than reality, or facts, closer to theories than actual facts, then we start to constrict and we start to give meanings a lot more importance than we otherwise might. So the first thing that we can do is stop trying to define ourselves by what we think being feminine means, right? Because then what happens is you start naturally gravitating towards what you really are. And I do believe that most of us, if not all of us, at our height of potential, exist within some type of balance of the two, okay? Because you can't tell me that the woman who works 60, 50, 40-hour work weeks, who's so in her masculine energy, is supposed to be like that, all right? And you can't say the same thing for the man who also acts like that, okay? And then vice versa with the feminine energy. Somebody who can't get a hold on their finances or their emotions, but they are super creative and intuitive. That's not how a human is the potential of what they can be or what they should be. So I think that each of us has the potential, the ability to be in between, right? To have both energies combined. So one of the best things that we can do, in addition to just get rid of these labels, is to actually get to know ourselves, and you can take a number of practical actions. So I'm just going to throw out the easiest one, which is just introspection, just meditation, introspection, stillness, being alone, being quiet. That allows us to really explore what we like, what we would like to do. If you're somebody who's overly masculine, the advice isn't to go do more masculine things. It would be to explore your creative side, explore your feminine side. If you're somebody who's more feminine and your masculine side seems to be waning, it's not to do more feminine things. It's to get into your more masculine energy by doing more masculine things. But the interesting thing about that is that there's no one way to do any of it, because you can also argue that doing and focusing on your feminine side of things allows your more masculine sides to arise. Because if some of your masculine problems have to do with confidence, finances, your inability to get a job, things like that, it's possible that in order to make that side of things work, you need to fully embrace your feminine side. Because maybe where you come from is from a very damaged feminine side. So your lesson is to actually take that side of yourself and nurture it and own it and make that into more of, not an identity, but more of your power than to focus purely on the masculine side of things. And vice versa, if you were somebody who had a very damaged masculine side, maybe what you need isn't to open your whole world into the creative arts, but to actually hone your confidence and to make that into your power, that side of things into your power. So it bothers me when I do see all of these different things that we should do, take an art course if you need to be feminine, or this, that, and the other, if you need to be masculine, focus on your confidence, exercise, do things like that. I mean, what's feminine and what's masculine? Is yoga feminine, not masculine, but is working out of the gym masculine, not feminine? These ideas are kind of silly. So if you break it down and just go all the way down to, well, it's about giving and receiving, or taking and doing, or something like that, then it becomes easier to see which habits, which ideas, which lines of thinking, and which behaviors or hobbies might actually be aligned with one of those things, right? So what's an action you can take that's giving? So in order to become more feminine, you might think, or to get more in touch with your feminine side of things, you might want to not necessarily take up tarot readings, because that's not going to be for everybody, but you might want to volunteer, right? You might want to go out in nature. You might want to do something where it feels like you're giving back, or you're allowing to receive. So you then, in that sense, you might just want to do nothing or meditate. Again, be in stillness, introspection. And if you want to maybe do something masculine, then you have to think, well, what can I do that is taking? What can I do that builds confidence? What can I do that has to do with doing, right? And so you might think, oh, well, getting a job, right? Or doing something in money or finances, or taking charge, or playing a team sport. Things like that, things of that nature. And of course, it depends on the gender that you are, what you identify with. But the beauty of this is that you can actually use both, right, to get to the same thing, because taking an action might be volunteering, which is masculine, but you're giving back to the community, so you're getting nothing out of it other than the pure joy of doing it, which is feminine. So then you've balanced them out. Do you understand? So you can see that it's not about this black and white feminine masculine, and that's the problem. That's the issue that I'm talking about, is this polarity, this duality, this black and white line of thinking. It's masculine and feminine. But if it's all balanced, then that means that the energies themselves are together. You're taking actions and doing things that are at part of the same idea, like that volunteer example that I just gave you, that volunteering example. So really, it's not this sort of weird list of rules. You probably watched this video and thought, well, I can't wait for this 12 steps of how to balance things out. But there isn't any real steps. It's not rocket science. It's not even algebra. It's just focusing and knowing your own actions, what you'd like to do, and what those actions might actually entail. And I really do think, and I will stress again, that just removing these ideas of feminine and masculine will help you get quicker into those balancing of those energies than focusing on them one at a time. Like, I'm going to focus on my masculine energy because my feminine side's damaged, or vice versa. You don't need to think in these two terms of black and white. You can take actions or non-actions at the same time that are literally part of both. So if you're trying to balance out your energies, take actions and lines of thinking and do behaviors and hobbies that actually elicit both responses at the same time, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about balance, which is to have two energies exist at the same time, coinciding with one another peacefully.